Welcome to Conversations with Educators, where we bring educators from across the country to talk about topics like college and career readiness, graduation tracking, teacher growth, assessment coordination, and more. Let's get started. Okay, I am going to go ahead and get started. These 30-minute sessions go pretty quick, and I want to make sure we give plenty of time to our amazing team to be able to share their knowledge with you today. I hope you are all having a wonderful day and a happy Halloween. Hoping you're having some fun. If not, you have some fun planned. Tamirra joked, she's like, "Where is your orange?" And I completely missed the mark on that, but we're glad that Tamirra and Kacy did. Apparently, Barrington and Max and I, we needed a hat or something, but anyway, we're excited to have you here. We love these conversations with educators. We love giving you an opportunity to hear from the best of the best on relevant topics. And my name is Laura Miller. I am thrilled to be here with you. I have been with Education Advanced and the Test-Town product for, I've lost track, I think 8 or 9 years. I love what I do. I love being able to share this product. And again, just information that help educators in general. That's one of my favorite things to do. And I'm joined by, if you're in Florida and you are a Test-Town customer, you're very familiar with Max Gregory, his name and his face. He is our Vice President of Customer Success and works directly with our Florida districts on our product to make sure things are running great. We are just beyond thrilled to have an amazing panel with us to discuss our topic today, PM1 reflections. And, you know, of course, we have to have a little Halloween theme, tricks or treats for PM2 success. We are joined by Team Orange County, some of the most amazing professionals in assessment and educators. We have Kacy, Tamirra, and Barrington that are going to share a little bit of their expertise about this subject. I will share that they really wanted to take it kind of from this direction. They thought this might be the most advantageous for this group. So Kacy, Precious, our trick, right, was K2 testing the terrifying tale of 2 test files. And I just saw that there's well, we're not going to call it a tile. We're going to call it a file, but that's okay, tile file. The treat is how the DOE state monitoring led OCPS to monitor for Test-Town compliance, helping identify testing coordinators who need additional support. So I am going to unshare my screen so that everybody can see our team a little bit easier. And this is the point where I stop talking and let the experts go. I will share the chat should be enabled for everyone, for panelists, and also for our attendees. So we definitely want to do some Q&A at the end. So feel free to pop those in the chat as we go, and Max and I will help moderate that. So with that being said, I'm turning it over to Team Orange County.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Barrington Maxwell, joined by Tamirra Hutchinson and Kacy Libersat. We are we're a part of the assessment department. Our department is quite large here in Orange County, but we manage the student assessments for K through 12, our statewide, as well as our national and international assessments. So the first topic we wanted to discuss, and I'll bring in Tamirra and Kacy to chime in whenever they see fit, is the wonderful fun we had with the Star Renaissance tiles, where back in July, we attended our annual statewide assessment meeting, and we were happy to learn that there was going to be a designated tile for the FAST test. And of course, you know, we thought that, you know, this is going to be a great thing. All of the, I don't say issues, but maybe some of the deficiencies of the Renaissance testing platform was going to be addressed and fixed, and there'd be no duplicate testing and all that wonderful stuff. And then the questions began, and you know, our counterparts in other districts, those at Renaissance, and even at the state tried their best to answer our questions. And I think that for the most part, we all thought we had a pretty good handle on the tail of the two testing tiles until the first couple days of testing. And this is where I'm going to bring Tamirra in. Tamirra, share with the group your experience with students testing on the correct tiles and what led you to knowing that students were not testing on the correct tiles.
Good morning, and thank you for having us here. But Renaissance is, I like to call them special. They're a very special platform. So what we originally did, we were able to block them from testing on the star tile so that they can only test on the Florida fast tile. However, that did not work that well. So initially we did know, because a couple of schools kind of have been running their reports like we told them to, and to determine that this doesn't have the FL next to it. So we knew about those schools, but what we didn't know about is the, what was it, Kacy, 3,000? I think it was a little over 3,000 across our district, students who had tested on the incorrect test tile. So that proved to be a challenge, but we did work with Renaissance, and Kacy had to provide an individual file for, I believe, every school on each tab. And then Renaissance eventually was able to transfer those tests over. But a lot of schools, if they noticed it early, they did test the students multiple times. So we didn't alleviate that issue. They may not have tested 10 to 20 times as they've done in the past, but they definitely tested a couple times more than they should have within our testing window. So that hopefully is supposed to be fixed by PM2. Fingers crossed. So the state has promised us that it will be resolved come PM2, but that's kind of been our challenge when it comes to K-2 testing.
Right. I mean, certainly one of the great benefits is that we didn't have the multiple testing like in the past where we had to deactivate upwards of a couple thousand tests throughout PM1, 2, and 3 last year, whereas this year it was significantly less. So we just, as Tamirra says, we just got help in our department. So we have 2 individuals who provide us and the entire district with support. So they were able to help us with managing the deactivation of tests. And we improved our form for deactivating tests using smart sheets, where we're able to get notifications. And also, once we take action on the deactivation of those tests, the test coordinators are automatically getting notifications that the deactivation request that they submitted was indeed processed, or if we rejected it, for whatever reason, they received that communication as well. So that certainly helped us to be more efficient with our time. And of course, having the fast tile and the system blocking out multiple tests did at least decrease significantly the number of tests that needed to be deactivated during and after the window. I will say that some of our counterparts in other districts didn't have it so nicely. I know that there were some districts that had, over 10,000 students who had to have their tests moved, and they even realized that earlier in the window. So, my condolences, if you will, to those of you that had to do that. And of course, shout out to Kacy for tackling that file for us, because of course, everybody, in the state of Florida, we had to battle 2 hurricanes and school closures and getting all the other testing done that happens at the start of the year. So Kacy, thank you for taking care of that. So for me, I am hoping that, much like Tamirra said, I'm hoping that the tile that is going to be, or the fixes, I should say, that will be available for the tiles will certainly fix this issue. I don't expect it to be 100%, perfect. There'll probably be some nuances that need to be worked out, but hopefully, as we continue to test, we are certainly hoping that we are able to better identify kids that didn't test on the correct tile, which hopefully that issue should be identified and fixed. But if it doesn't, at least we know what to look for this administration.
Barrington, we have a
Sure.
question in the chat. What was the platform that gave the notifications for multiple tests administered? I don't think there was one, correct?
Yeah, there wasn't one, right. So what we did is in our training, we instructed schools to look at the STAR activity report. And on the STAR activity report, it shows there's a designation of FL to show that the student tested using the state's established tile for testing. And if the FL was absent, then then we knew that the students did not test under the correct tile. And for those of you who may not be familiar with STAR reading and STAR early literacy and STAR math, it's a platform that we use for our students in K-2 for progress monitoring. Also, the other thing that's important to note is we also use STAR testing for AR, and that was the confusion, is that some people want to be able to provide AR testing, accelerator reader, which is AR testing for Renaissance, as well as testing for the state during the window. So we've been trying to encourage and create the culture that when it's time for state testing, we're only doing state testing. And anytime that the window for state testing has closed, they can work on testing for AR.
And there is another question that says, will we just see the fast tile? So I believe the state said that the other tile will be visible, it just won't be active during the window, and that districts have the ability to be able to make sure that they only can test the fast tile during the fast window. So again, this is all new. We haven't had any details yet. So can't wait to see that happen, hopefully in December for PM2.
Now, the one thing I do like is that the state does have those monthly check-ins each month. So I'm hoping that at least for November, we'll get some more tangible, if you will, direction on how that will work in preparation for PM2.
And I also want to add that all of our test coordinators, we have about 270 so schools. We also do have them use Test Town for K-2. I know the state does not necessarily require those same documents as our 3 through 10 students, but we do make sure that they use Test Town to kind of schedule their, their testing schedule. If the students have paper-based tests, they have to scan them in Test Town. And I just think that extra practice of getting in the habit of doing that. So when we do have 3 through 10, it makes it that much better. So we collect those, we have them scan them to us so that we can see them as well, just as we would do for our students who are testing for any 3 through 10 testing as well.
Thank you, Tamirra. I wasn't sure if there were any other questions before we transition to the state monitoring.
There is one more. So this is the same for the fast tile out of the window. I'm not positive what's that referring to. I think the tile being not active, it would be the star, right? The tile that has the star on it. That would be the one that's not active.
Right. That's what we're hoping, that it won't be active during the actual window, and that therefore kids will only test under the fast tile. That's what we're hoping and praying for. Our fingers are crossed. All right. So not last year, but the year before, our district was selected to participate in monitoring as a part of the U.S. Department of Ed's requirements that has been handed down to states. So to say it wasn't a tough job, it was a lot of documentation, a lot of paperwork. But it also opened our eyes quite a bit. Prior to me getting in this role, Cindy Landers, who some of you may know, was the DAC for Orange County Public Schools, and had been for several years, until I came in around 10 years ago. Then when I came in, we had two, and, it seemed like, that was enough people to handle the work. And then the monitoring process, going through it, took us about 4 or 5 months to actually complete it, really opened our eyes to, though we do a lot of work and we provide a lot of support to our test coordinators and our principals and our district leaders, that there was a lot more that could be done, and having additional personnel could certainly get that to be done. It also, even though everything was always in compliance, it definitely pointed us to realizing that we were not having a very close eye on what schools were doing. And when you have 278, almost 280 schools, you can't make it out to every school to see what someone is doing. So this allows us now to, where we use smart sheets for a variety of ways. We use it for making sure that our materials, in conjunction with Test Hound, get returned to the vendor. Tamirra and I kind of have a mantra that we share with our test coordinators. We've been doing it for about 2-3 years now, where it's hashtag no missing materials, where we are striving to not have any missing materials through the use of Test Hound and some of our other systems and processes for any of these statewide administrations. We we put a lot of pressure on our test administrators and test coordinators to keep track of those materials, and we have seen a great reduction in the number of materials that would not get returned because they were lost. I remember one year we went from nearly 100 missing items down to, I think last year we had, about
I think it was like
4?
Yeah, it was
The end of
definitely
it.
less than 10.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's a huge improvement. We also host monthly meetings with our test coordinators, and that is a slide that's on part of our presentation every time we meet. Anytime we have a training about materials, that slide is there, and it doesn't change. It's the same one. So therefore, we use it to make sure that all of our materials are going through. So what we have created is a process called Ready to Ship. In any school that has materials, whether it's an elementary, middle, or high school, if they have materials, they get an email once it's time to start packing up their materials, basically saying, hey, go ahead and start getting ready. And when you are ready, click this link to indicate that you are ready to ship. And what we're looking for when we say that a school is ready to ship is we're looking to make sure that the book was inventoried in Test Hound. We're making sure that it was assigned to the student or students for whom we're using paper-based accommodation materials. We're making sure that when they boxed the materials, that they have scanned both the shipping label so that we have record of the tracking number, as well as return label, so that once it gets to the vendor's warehouse, we know and can provide documentation for which box those materials were in. And then once that is done, Tamirra or myself will go into Test Hound and verify that those are all taken care of. And if something is missing or not done correctly, then we direct the test coordinator on how to fix it. Once that's done, that's when we switch over to Smart Sheets. And Smart Sheets basically tells them that we reviewed their the work that they did in Test Hound to make sure that it was all done correctly, and B, they now have permission to schedule their shipment. And in that notification, they're required to let us know when the boxes were scheduled to be picked up and how many boxes are to be picked up. Once that is done, there's another automated message that comes out the next day that basically tells them that they need to confirm that the materials were actually picked up. And we use that, so if there are any discrepancies from DRC or Pearson stating that, hey, this particular box or this particular book is missing, we're like, no, no, no. Here it is. I have the documentation. It was signed by Richard at the warehouse. I don't know if Richard works at the warehouse, but that's just name I made up. It was signed by Richard. And this is the barcode return label that was also affixed to the box. So that has definitely helped us. We are great friends with those at Pearson and DRC, so they know that if something is missing, we can provide them the necessary documentation, and then they're able to dig a little deeper. Last year, what test was that? Was it Access for Ls, I believe it was, where we had about 12 things that were missing. We're able to get in touch with those schools, and of the 12 things that were missing, I believe, like I said, about 4 just could not be recovered. And that was for the thousands of tests that we received and returned. Our goal this year certainly is to get that down to 0. And I am confident, being with the progress we've made so far, that we can get there. Additionally, we also verify that our students are scheduled for testing in Test Hound. So that's another process that we do now that we have team members to assist. They're able to go in and review to ensure that every student is assigned to a testing room, and that every testing room has a test administrator and or proctor assigned to that room. If we find that a school is not in compliance, again, we're able to use smart sheets to provide them with guidance on how to fix or get in compliance, so that we, A, can ensure that all of our students have been scheduled for testing, and that our test administrators and test coordinators are meeting the requirements set forth by the state.
Thank you, Barrington, so much for that. And I love hearing that the materials component of Test Town has been such a huge help for you all. I love hearing that reduction in error. I know with a large district, that's clearly a big thing that we do help with. Just through the questions that were coming up, and I might, if it's okay, give Max just a second to kind of hop in and say something too. So much of what we do with the system as well is helping campus coordinators with the logistics of testing. And we know your state is testing so often from the first day of school, I think, all the way through the summer. And so the logistics piece of our system that helps them manage PM1 to PM2, copying sometimes how like rooms look or things look from one administration to the other is a big benefit. And so, Max, if you don't mind, just for a couple of seconds, I know you answer that you've built something out in the chat, but do you want to just say something briefly about that?
I can. So what we did at the beginning of the year was, Laura, trying to minimize the number of tests that people have to set up, trying to make it easier. And what we found is there's a mixed bag where some people love consolidated testing, where some love the grade level subject, and we totally understand. So to allow for that, in PM2 and PM3 and the test moving forward, we still have the consolidated versions of the test. So if you choose to use those, you have access to it. You also have those grade level and subject area tests. And so I can send out the instructions. We have them posted. I think I emailed them out, but it doesn't mean they always go through. Hopefully people don't have me blocked as spam, but you never know. I try not to blow you all up too much, but essentially what you would do, like Stacy, from PM1, if you used a consolidated test, and then in PM2, you want to go to a test that's broken out by grade level and subject, you'll do the copy to just as you normally would. So you'll copy from PM1, the consolidated test, to PM2 in that grade level and subject area test. What will happen though is it will copy everything from PM1, like the consolidated version. If you did 6 through 8, that will show up in like a grade 6 reading test. So what you would have to do is then just remove students by grade from that test. You can delete the extra rooms. So there's a little bit of cleanup on the back end once the copying is done, but you still won't have to add the students, add the rooms, add the test administrators. It's a lot easier on the back end to just remove students by grade and then remove the extra rooms. So I did send that once. What I might do is, now that we're kind of getting on, I guess, the heels or the front end of PM2, I'll send that out one more time. So if you want to share it, but really the process doesn't stay the same. There's just a little bit of cleanup on the back end to make sure that for that grade level and subject area test, you're only looking at the students that you want. Not a problem, Stacy. You're welcome.
Like I said, 30 minutes fly by, and we're already getting close to the end, but I do not want to let my team of amazingness here go before, I just want to ask if there's anything else that sticks out in all your mind or any of your mind, any other considerations or big picture thing that maybe you learned as a team from PM1 and how you want to adjust it moving forward to PM2.
I do want to chime in and kind of piggyback on what Max said, and to Stacy, some of the things that we find as an issue with copying over, just make sure that you don't go ahead and add rooms or students in that, because once you have things already in there, it won't allow you to copy. So we do get a lot of calls. It won't let me copy from one administration to the other. And that's because they've already started building out inside of that administration. So once you do your testing schedule and add your grade levels, just leave it blank. Don't add the rooms, don't add the students, and then you're able to copy it over. So I know that's a pain point that we normally have to kind of address every administration. So I just wanted to say that.
Oh, that's actually a great point, Tamirra. And so, okay, you piggyback on me, and now I'm going to add one more thing to yours. So what you'll find, when you do that copy from PM1 to PM2, so it's going to move all the students over that are currently enrolled and put them in PM2. So to Tamirra's point, you've got to have that PM2 test blank. Then what you can do after you do the copy is you can add by grade level or by course again. And so if they're new students that are at your school, they'll then be brought into that test. So, and that doesn't undo any of the work that you've already done. It will simply populate them in the test, and then you can use that unassigned tab within the test, not the test configuration, test setup screen. So you can just look through and find those kids that don't have a room assignment, and then make sure they are assigned to the appropriate room. So, thanks. Thank you, Tamirra. You brought that up, and that's a great point.
Any other last pieces of advice from our experts?
The only thing I would say is, oftentimes we were waiting until the end of the window to make sure that things were looking as expected in Test Hound from our schools. We've decided to shift that from waiting to the end to doing it at the beginning, so that they should be using it to plan. And if they aren't, then we can catch it at the forefront of the window and they can get caught up by the end. Of course, if you're in Florida, you know that when you wrap one testing window up, you're getting ready to start another one. And then that just keeps putting you further and further behind. So we can catch it at the beginning. If we can get somebody out to the school to sit with you and walk you through it, or set up a quick session, then we do that so that you can at least be in compliance in advance.
Okay, Laura. So I'm just going to bear, because what you said kind of reminded me of one thing. So just so everyone in the webinar knows, so the CS team does host, we call them test down tune-ups. They're really office hours. So Bear, that's what it reminded me of, like the opportunity that you were giving your testing coordinators. So if someone out there, is struggling, you can call, submit a support ticket, reach out to our support team. But on our, whenever you get into help, you can always go and you can look for our test down tune-ups. And so if you just want 5 minutes to pop in and talk with someone from our CS team and just ask your specific question, that's out there too. So again, I always say, don't beat your head against the wall. Don't, spin your wheels forever. Reach out and let us know what we can do to help.
Well, that was, without you even knowing, a perfect segue to me wanting to share what our company goal is. We truly want to make your job easier. That is I can't maybe say everyone, the vast majority of our company has worked in education before. This is the funny joke. Max was my DTC, right? Back in the day at the district. So we've all been around education and want to truly make everything you do as efficient and accurate as possible. Test Town clearly is one of those products that we use for assessment. We have some others and pathways and college, career, military, all that good stuff. Graduation tracking. I was a high school counselor. That's what kept me up at night for sure. And then also teacher evaluation. So we are thrilled to be here with you. I'm going to just pop my email in the chat here in a second once I stop talking. So if anybody has any questions about these products, or if you need me to help get you to support, if you need me to give you Mac's email, no, I'm kidding. I won't do that. No, yeah.
It goes back to Laura, so.
He would help anyone in a heartbeat. And if you've been around Max long enough, you know that is the truth. That's what we want to do, is help you all. So again, fast 30 minutes. We will be sharing this recording out through different channels. And so if there's something you picked up on that you might want to hear again, we can do that. And again, I know how busy everyone is. Thank you so much, Barrington, Tamirra, and Kacy, for joining us for this time and for preparing for it. Your insight is just super valuable to everyone. I will stay on for just another couple of seconds in case any other questions come up. Again, I'm going to put my email in the chat in case you need it. And if not, happy Halloween. This is your excuse. Go eat lots of candy. It doesn't count today. You can stop tomorrow, right? Eat those Reese's peanut butter cups. That's my go-to. Okay, thank you all so much. Have a great day.
Thanks for joining us. If you want to learn more about college and career readiness, graduation tracking, teacher growth, assessment coordination, be sure to subscribe to our newsletter. Until next time.